Can you fix my hair? No. Can you just
It's fine.
Okay, but sometimes it doesn't.
Carly, I promise it's good.
It does look good.
You're good.
Yeah, because you don't need it over this shoulder because that's where your mic
Right.
is. So, no, it looks good.
Okay,
Everybody
but
looks good.
it's really strange.
We all look good.
Blake is
Go.
like, get on the road. Blake wants to go home. Hey guys, welcome to our first podcast of Adultish, where we're actually going to talk about kind of adult things. It's going to be awesome. So today we are going to talk about travel, and let's introduce ourselves to our fans. Go ahead, Megan.
Well, I'm Megan.
I'm Amy.
And I'm Carly, and we have all had some experience traveling, and so we're just going to kind of share those tips with you all as we move through this podcast. And so as college students, like, this is the prime time to be traveling because you have a super flexible schedule. This is probably the only time in your life that you're only going to pay for one airline ticket, and so it can be really cheap. There's tons of scholarships out there to help you do it. And also travel, right now, there's a lot of talk about it because of the coronavirus spreading. So
Yes, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the coronavirus. So I'm sure at this point we've all heard about it. It's like, I think yesterday it was up to over 80,000 cases worldwide, and people are kind of worried about it. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what it is, first of all. So the technical name for coronavirus includes SARS, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome. And the reason that scares people is because the first time SARS hit, I think early to mid 2000s, it was a really big deal. People were dying from it, and so now everyone's like really freaked out. Also, they're like, wow, it's going all over the world and it seems unstoppable. So let me tell you about it. Coronavirus, there's 7 strains, and 4 of them are really common. At some point in your life, you've probably had coronavirus. You may not have been told by the doctor, hey, you have a branch of the coronavirus. You've probably had coronavirus. It often comes off like a cold or a flu, something like that. There are 3 strains that are more uncommon, and that's because they originated in animals and evolved to infect humans. So, like, the human body doesn't know how to battle it, like, efficiently yet. And those are MERS, SARS, and the novel coronavirus that we're seeing right now. And the first 2, MERS and SARS, were, I would say, more severe than what we're seeing right now. But it's important to remember that the coronavirus that we have right now has killed, last time I looked, I mean, it's been less than 10,000. It's, I think, still around 3,000 or 4,000. In the past, like, whatever months that we've been worried about it, the flu has killed estimated like 30,000 in the past few months, which is extensively more.
yes.
So it's not super a big thing to be worried about. But that being said, it has reached China, obviously, because it originated in Wuhan. South Korea, there's cases in Japan. The CDC just released a thing warning the US that they should expect to see outbreaks over here, which we'd already had, between 10 and 15 cases. Italy just got hit with one that basically broke out like overnight, which is the same way it happened in South Korea, and there's already been trips canceled. So a lot of people know Elizabeth Irwin here at Murray State was supposed to go to China, and her trip was canceled, and she was really bummed about that. She was going to be the first student ever to study at this like Chinese university. She was really excited, ready to go, and 2 weeks, 3 weeks before she was supposed to take off, they canceled it. Now there's been 3 students who are supposed to spend the semester in South Korea who literally, I know 2 of them were on the plane to go to South Korea. They'd already flown to Detroit on the plane to go to South Korea. One of them was like, oh, I just turned my airplane mode off on happenstance while I was on the plane to check messages, and he had messages from his parents and someone at study abroad that was like, get off the plane, don't fly to South Korea, your whole trip's been canceled. So imagine like finding that and like having to get off the plane after planning to go for like all that time. People are worried that like their France trip this summer is going to get canceled. I've actually, because I'm supposed to go to Regensburg next semester, kind of worried that that might get canceled because it's in Europe right now with a couple outbreaks. But it's just something that the CDC is keeping an eye on. Murray State is doing really good about watching it. We actually have like a tracking team at Murray State that's specifically meant to track the coronavirus, where it's at and how it's going. I mean, the best advice they can give anyone is really the simple, like, wash your hands, be on the lookout for it. If you fly anywhere, even if it's in the United States, wear a mask. So for spring break, I'm getting ready to just fly to Florida for Disney World, and I'm going to be wearing a mask. Just stuff like that. It's going to be monitored. They think that cases are starting to go down, especially in the Southeast Asian area. So it's something to worry about, but it's not, as deadly as other things we've seen.
Right. So just taking those precautions, like Megan said, washing your hands is a good one too. So on this podcast, we're going to be talking about 3 different types of travel. The first one being work trips, the second one being vacations, and the final one being study abroad. And for each of those, we're going to kind of share our experiences that we've had, and then we're also going to share 3 kind of general tips to use when you are planning your next trip. So I'm going to start out with talking about some work trips. Have you all been on any kind of work trips before?
With my parents.
Okay.
Where they're working and I'm chilling at the hotel.
Like bring your daughter
to
work.
Chicago Day.
Okay. So I actually got to go to Los Angeles this summer with the internship that I had. It was all expenses paid. I got paid to do videography for the company that I worked for. I got to order room service, go to LA Dodgers game for free. So work trips are sweet. If you can find a way to go on them, they're really, really fun. But there's a couple of things to remember too. The 3 tips that I have, the first one being to make a list of what you need to pack a couple weeks in advance. Just so that you know what to bring, and as you prepare and start thinking of random things, you still have time to add it to the list, because if you're thinking about it the night before, that's the first time that you think of it, you'll probably forget a couple of things. The second one, let's see here, is to always pack your basic necessities in a carry-on. I know on other trips that I've been in, they've lost luggage, and it's really annoying if you have to go to the store to buy shirt and pants and shoes and things like that. So always have a kind of professional outfit in your carry-on that you can use to, if you have like a dinner that night and you only have time to hop off the plane and go, that's something that you can use in case your luggage does get lost. And then finally, remember that every interaction is an interview. Even though this is like a work trip, you still have to be professional. So when you're at these cocktail parties, restaurants, even on your flights, I flew right next to my boss when I was flying on my work trip. But you are still a representation of the company. So have fun. They really are fun. It's a nice change of scenery. But remember that you still want to keep your job. So anything to add about that?
Utilize a lot of the time that work trips will give you all expenses paid things. So my parents, which granted is different, they work for the government, so the government is going to pay for everything they do.
Your tax dollars at work.
Your tax dollars at work, kids. But my parents, they would give them like meal cards basically. So it's just a credit card where they can go pay for meals. And my dad would like eat out at these nice places and be like, oh, look what I ate. And so just like utilizing, if your work is like, hey, here's money to eat, have fun with it.
Yes,
Use it.
I know ours was any kind of meals. In Los Angeles, it's so expensive. And our dinners, per plate, it would be like $30. And I'm like, oh, wow. But enjoy it, because you can get some good steak. Anything that's not Chick-fil-A or Tea Room will honestly probably be really good for you. Okay, so the second category that I have is vacations/trips. Why? Because I think the way that I define it, a vacation is like restful, like let's go to the beach and chill. Whereas a trip is more like, okay, let's go explore, like let's do fun things, and you're gonna be like super tired at the end of every night because you're out roaming. So the way my family did it, we never did Christmas presents. Well, we did when we were little, but after we learned new information, we started doing family trips, and that was super fun. We went to Dallas one year, we went to New York for another year, and then all of our vacations every summer, we go to Panama City Beach and just chill on the beach and read and do all that fun stuff. What are your all's experiences with trips?
Well, so my family, we had two places we like to go. So when I was a kid, they started us on, we go to Disney World and Universal Studios once every 3 years. So I've been 4 or 5 times in my lifetime. But then we also, every fall break, when I was like in middle school into high school, would go to Edisto Island in South Carolina, which was like one of my favorite things. And I always got to take a friend because I was an only child growing up, so like didn't have like sibling friends or anything. Yeah, but we would do a lot, especially if we were going to South Carolina, like family trips, like vacations were more for like relaxation. So like my dad was literally on the beach every single day fishing. From like dawn until dusk, he was fishing, and that was all he did. My mom just sat on the beach and read, but like me and my friend, so like literally whoever I brought would just explore the island. And it was always a really good time. Like we would go on like historical tours because like South Carolina is really big in like Civil War history. So we did a lot of historical tours, and we would go to like a lot of like the independent businesses because Edisto Island has just a lot of those because it's not a very like, it's open to the public, but like people don't really go to it. So it's very like small. There's not a lot of people on it. So it doesn't have a lot of big businesses, but I always had fun just exploring and like going to the like little alleys that most people wouldn't want to explore and like finding just the cool stuff that was there.
Amy?
So growing up, we got to go to Florida in like middle school and high school for fall break. We'd go to Panama City Beach. And then in 2017, I actually got to travel to Nepal. I got to travel to 2 different cities, and one of them being Kathmandu, the capital city. And that was just an incredible experience. And I'm so grateful I got to go.
Awesome. So the 3 tips that we have for vacations and trips. The first one is to always be flexible. There's lots of unexpected events that happen. Obviously, with coronavirus being one, maybe people had planned trips and now they have to be flexible. Weather is always something that is just completely out of your control. So it's really helpful to have a plan B and even a plan C.
I've got a fun story about that.
Okay.
The last time I went to Edisto Island, I think it was Hurricane Matthew hit, and they had to evacuate the entire island. So it was Wednesday, halfway through our fall break, and they're like, "Hey, get out!"
You have to leave. Yeah.
So
There's been times where we would have vacation at Panama City, and then also have storms and things going on there. So then we'd have to find another beach really quickly. But then it turns out to be fun. The second thing that you can do, try to plan your trips during really slow seasons because that is when you can get the best kind of deals. So that varies a lot per city that you go to, but you can just do a simple Google search of like the cheapest trips at what time of the year. And even though it might be a little uncomfortable, you can still have a great vacation for cheaper. Try to avoid going during wedding and honeymoon season because all of the prices are going to be jacked up really high.
Sky high.
So think about those kind of things, especially if there's a big like sporting event, or like don't try to go tour the place where the Olympics is during that time
You mean
that
you
they're
don't
there.
want to go to Tokyo
I
this
mean,
summer?
it would be fun.
Coronavirus
just
and the Olympics?
So fun, so fun. And so the last thing that I would suggest for this, don't live your vacation for the gram. Like totally, like have fun and like take pictures where it's like really natural too. Don't like plan your vacation around where you can get like the coolest selfie, and really enjoy like the people that you're with too if you're going with others, but try to stay off your phone because that'll be with you when you're back at home and scrolling when you wake up in the morning to try to wake up. Like it will still be there.
Especially if you're traveling like internationally. Like take time to talk to locals and find out like what the best place, where they recommend you to go to. Like try to go places that aren't like tourist destinations but are places that locals enjoy. Like get to know, try new things. Like don't be afraid to try things.
I like just talking to locals about what's going on there. I remember when I was in London, Brexit was just like announced like maybe 6 months prior, and so this is actually when I was in Edinburgh, Scotland, and I had done my study abroad essay, which we'll probably talk about later, on I'd done it on Brexit and how I would approach the situation, and so I had known a lot about that subject, especially around that time, and I was able to talk to the locals about my opinion on Brexit, and they were actually really, really into the conversation and like respected my views because I knew so much about it and was able to talk to them about something that was affecting them. So like just focusing on the locals and not just where you want to go there, but like just what's going on in their current events is really cool.
Yes, you just stole a tip but it's okay because it's worth mentioning again. So our last category is study abroad. I studied abroad in my sophomore year. I went to London on a spring break trip through Murray State, which was awesome because I didn't have to pay for the class. My scholarships worked and covered all of that. I really was just out the flight by the time all of the scholarships came back. So it was super nice. I didn't have to miss anything going on in the semester. You get to miss the last 2 days of the week before, which is super fun. Maybe you have to take midterms early. But we got to see all kinds of things. Parliament, the London Eye, the Queen's living quarters in Windsor Castle, Big Ben, the British Museum, anything that you could ever want to do in London. Spring break is nice because you do all of your classwork in Murray, Kentucky, and then when you're abroad, you're not sitting in a classroom doing homework. You're out and about, and then you can write your papers and reflect on your experiences when you're back in the classroom in Murray. Do you have any study abroad stories?
My freshman year, I, for Christmas break, went to London, England, and Edinburgh, Scotland. And that was just a really good time because it's the same thing with like spring break where you do all of your coursework before when you're still in Murray, Kentucky, and then you get to just focus on all of the crazy cool things about being in a new place. And I thought going to the UK was a really good first study abroad because they speak English there, which is really nice. And as someone who I'd spent time learning German, but I wasn't fully comfortable enough yet to go to a country where they spoke another language yet, like German. And so I just went somewhere where they spoke English and was able to really do a lot of cool things. Went and saw where they filmed Harry Potter, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then now I'm getting ready to go spend next semester in Regensburg, Germany at the university there. So
Hopefully.
hopefully if they don't cancel it, yeah.
Yes. So 3 tips that we have for you for study abroad. First, it sounds so simple, but you often overthink it. Get the phone numbers of classmates and even your professor. Usually they will give you their personal cell phone number. And also store the phone number for the U.S. Embassy if you are traveling internationally. Make sure that you register your trip, especially if you're going solo. Murray State will usually do that through their study abroad office, but it's always helpful to make sure that other people have your itinerary and that you're checking in with others. Having those cell phone numbers is great. If you get lost somewhere and you need to reconnect with the group, just make sure that you have multiple points of contact that you can go back to. It's also good to have the address of your hotel if you get lost and you need to go back. Their phone number. Just make sure that you are well researched and know where you need to be and the people that you need to be with. Let's see, what's our second tip? Second tip is to book excursions before you travel. So I know that at least when I was studying abroad, it was so tempting to like, let's just wait until we get there and see what we want to do, and then that's what we'll do. But you want to make sure that you plan every night well, and that I promise you will find any city that you tour, you'll find tons of excursions that you want to go on, and so you'll have to prioritize those before you get there, because once you are there and you're traveling, you don't want to spend precious time on your phone looking up what to do, and by that point everything might be sold out. Do you have anything to
I'm already getting ready to plan my trip to Prague because when I'm in Germany I want a fall break in Prague. And then for actually a couple weeks beforehand, my boyfriend and I are looking at like just backpacking across Europe. So we're getting ready to plan that, even though it's not even technically during my study abroad. So like we're all working on those. And then I know my friend who was going to go to China, Elizabeth, even though she didn't get to go, she had already planned and booked flights and everything like a while ago to Cambodia. So like it's a big need and necessity.
It really is never too early to start planning those things, because you can get really good deals.
Pinterest is a great way to, just a little plug for Pinterest, but it's a great way to look up excursions, and they have like a lot of people who travel blog and travel vlog can just be like, hey, this is what I did, this is what it looks like. If you're interested in this, this is something you can do too. And you can also just go to Google and be like, where can I go? And then you'll get those same blogs and vlogs.
Yes. The final tip that I have is to talk to the locals. So I know for our study abroad trip, one of our assignments was to we were just on the streets and we just had to bump into people and ask. It could be simple questions. I was in an intercultural communication class, so all of our questions were about culture, but it was really cool because we got to ask, like, how do you parent, and like seeing how that's different from America to different countries, especially if you travel to a melting pot kind of place like London is. Everyone from everywhere is there, so you can meet a ton of people and gain a lot of perspective, and it's a lot less scary. Like, I think talking about it here is more scary to like approach a stranger, but there's so many opportunities when you're riding on public transportation or you're in the streets waiting for your line in a line to get a smoothie. Any opportunity that you have, like, take advantage of meeting with those locals because you'll learn tons of things.
Train rides are train rides are honestly like the best place because I spent 6 hours on a train ride from London to Edinburgh sitting next to someone from England that I'd never met before. And just like talking to them and getting their story and all of that was really cool.
Amy's going to study abroad. We're trying to convince her.
It's a work in
I went to
progress.
Nepal. It was a little harder. Had to use a translator.
Yes.
Don't speak English.
But our study abroad office on campus is super amazing. Go to their website and you can schedule a meeting to just sit down and talk about your options. They'll be very transparent about money and what opportunities are available to you to take, and so they are a great resource. And it's really easy to, when you're traveling for that first time, maybe out of the country, to go with a group and to have that kind of comfort and that help.
My first study abroad, I applied literally, I think it was less than a week before the deadline to apply.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was living in the study abroad office. So like they are very, very helpful. And there's so many opportunities, especially like the spring break ones and the Christmas break ones and the summer break ones, you're usually always in a group.
Yes. And I'll close with kind of saying that you never wish that your study abroad was shorter. Like, don't be afraid to go for a long amount of time because you're gonna love it once you're traveling. Any other last words?
Go be a good adult.
Yes. I hope this gave you a lot of things to think about when you're planning your next trip. Be sure to comment below where you're going so that we can come with you because we want to travel as soon as May 9th, 2020 is over and we're graduating.
Or just give your stories, like cool things you found studying abroad. Any like trips you took on your own and you were like, this was really scary, but it ended up being really great.
If you have any good travel tips.
Yeah. Leave them below. All right, see you next week on Adultish.
Next week on Adultish, I will be the host. And we're going to be talking about understanding the current political climate, things to look for in the campaign for 2020. I'll have people from college Dems, college Republicans. I'm going to see if I can get any of the Libertarian Club on campus in, just everyone who's going to be kind of really involved. And we'll just be talking about the campaign. I'm going to talk a lot about the New Green Deal because that's a really big thing right now that a lot of people don't know much about. It's all about the climate and how we should help Mother Earth. So tune in for that next week, coming out on Friday.
Bye.